Hello, this is Mike Smith, and my Doing Power project revolved around a recent reorganization at the league where we now have a new COO that oversees the HR function. And the specific context is that I actually recruited the COO into the organization a little bit over a year ago and felt I had a fairly strong working relationship, but did have a sense that there was a little bit of a lack of satisfaction with the overall function from her prior seat in the organization, and specifically was pretty unclear about how she viewed my boss from a skill and capability perspective. And really, what sort of caused me to really focus on this as a part of the project is that in the first week of her arriving on the scene, there was a reorganization that took place that my boss was not aware of, and I became aware of it way too late in the process. Um, so the communication, the dealing with the employees, etc., really could have handled much better, and it was a pretty strong indication to me about her view of HR as a strategic partner for her that we were not as involved as soon as we wanted to be. So rather than going back and trying to do a postmortem of that and really draw attention to it, what I set out to do is just make sure that if something like that were to happen again, we would be brought in much earlier on the front stages. It's one of those that I'm not sure how you measure whether HR is the true strategic partner, but it's one of those things that I would know it when I see it. And so, through a variety of plans and activities, I really set out to show that the capability that me personally, as well as my team, brought to could bring to her as she's going about executing her vision. What did complicate things along the way is that my boss clearly was trying to find his right level setting with her in terms of how to communicate those types of things. So a lot of things I wanted to get done in terms of different meetings or activities or onboarding or other types of analyses, he was not fully supportive of. So what that caused me to do is to try to figure out how did I establish a relationship with her in a different way, but also maintaining the appropriate support of him and trying to work through him and not totally around him. And I think that I successfully navigated that by establishing some direct communications with the COO, but then always keeping my boss informed of that, and trying to make sure that I was taking some initiative, but really not trying to do something that ultimately he wasn't supportive of. And what's been terrific is that now 2 months later, I can't say there's the work is totally done, but it's clear there's some signals that these things are starting to have an impact. So there's a reorganization that's in the works on another part of our organization, and my boss and I were brought in really at the ground zero of this, and we were having the ability to now shape the timing, the communication, the individuals involved, roles, responsibilities, and doing the things that you would expect HR as a strategic partner to do. And the fact that the initial idea has now definitely been enhanced as we've gotten involved, I think is a great indication that 2 months later that things are starting to change. Also, a big initiative that I've undertaken and driven that I think is going to have a real impact, and fortunately had the CEO support on, is for the first time making a much more intentional and deliberate linkage between our strategic plan and individual goal setting for all of our employees for this coming season. So this past Friday, we had a senior leader meeting of our top 100 leaders in the organization, where we had a real open dialogue around how that would work and what the intention is and what our emphasis will be. And that was the meeting went long in a positive way, which was good. And then in a few days on Tuesday, we're going to be having really for the first time in about 2 years an all hands on deck, all employee town hall across the organization, where the COO is going to kick it off and then have a real conversation with the employees around the strategic plan, how it links to their individual goals, and what the expectation is and how we really do want to drive alignment and focus this coming season. None of that would have happened without me exercising some of the skills I think I learned in the class. There's this notion of focus and resiliency and just aggression in a positive way that I think I've probably demonstrated more in the last couple of months than I have previously. And the notion of conflict is something that it was a real eye-opener around how it can be a positive thing as long as the conflict is directed in the appropriate way. Just those handful of skills I think enabled me to establish the relationship, and then B, be able to get some of these things accomplished, like the town hall, like the senior leader meeting around goal setting, and then ultimately establishing that relationship that allowed us to now be on the front end of this next coming reorg. And I think just the last couple things that I think really sort of I'm going to be taking with me from this class is this notion of flattery and this notion of seeking counsel of others. I'm being much more intentional around asking for advice and giving kudos to people that are deserving of it. And it's noticeable in terms of people's reaction to those types of things, especially the asking advice. You can see the facial expression change and people wanting to help and appreciating the actual question. In full transparency, oftentimes I'm not sure I would normally have asked this person's opinion or even would value their opinion on some matters, but do view it as a pretty important technique in order to establish relationship, so that in the future, if there is something where there's a conflict or some type of request I need, you've got a reservoir of goodwill to build from that probably wouldn't be there if I wasn't doing some of these things well before a particular situation. So again, pleased with my couple months of progress. Again, much more work to be done, but the fact that these couple little things around the next reorganization, as well as what's happening now with our goal setting and our priority setting, are pretty good indicators to me that things are moving in the right direction. Thank you.